Here anthropotis, salve humanitas. Hello world. Dear friends, dear ladies and gentlemen from all over the planet, our beautiful blue planet, welcome in the 12th Panhellenic Symposium of Epicurean Philosophy. My name is Dr. Christos Yapijakis. I am a professor of genetics at the Medical School of the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, and I'm a founding member of the Garden of Athens and one of the organizers of this Panhellenic Symposium of Epicurean Philosophy, which is the only one in the world that happens annually. And it is organized by the people and not by academics. It is my great pleasure to be as a host to this international session of Epicurean philosophy. This is the first time that in our Panhellenic Symposium of Epicurean Philosophy that is conducted only in Greek so far, all these 11 years. But on this 12th year, it is the first time that we have an international session in English. And besides me, there will be friends of Epicurus, friends of Epicurean philosophy from all over the world. There will be two friends from the United States, Hiram Crespo and Cassius Amicus from Chicago and Atlanta, USA. Our friend from Sydney, Australia, Jeff Peterson. Our friend Michele Pinto from Senigallia, Italy. And myself from Athens, Greece. We will discuss some subjects, as I will tell you in a moment. But first of all, let me introduce you more our speakers today. Jeff Peterson from Sydney, Australia, is the founder and convener of the Garden of Sydney since 2011. And he has written a lot of Facebook and blog articles. He is a lawyer. Hiram Crespo is living in Chicago, USA, and in 2013 founded the International Society of the Friends of Epicurus. He is very active in Facebook, and he has written books and articles. Larry Cassius from Atlanta, USA, is a lawyer who is the proprietor and founder of the website newepicurean.com. He's very active in Facebook and blogs and has written a lot of books and articles on Epicurean philosophy. Michele Pinto from Senigallia in northern Italy is the founder and founding member of the Mondo di Epicuro, the World of Epicurus, in 2019 in Italy. And since that time, he's the main organizer of the Festival Epicureo in Senigallia in Italy. He has written books and articles on Epicurean philosophy. And myself, Christos Yapijakis from Athens, Greece. I am a founding member of the Garden of Athens since 2009, and since 2011, I'm one of the main organizers of the Panhellenic Symposium of Epicurean Philosophy. I have written books and articles on Epicurean philosophy. I'm a professor of genetics at the Medical School of the University of Athens. So let's start the historic international session of Epicurean philosophy inside the 12th Panhellenic Symposium of Epicurean Philosophy. as a probe for a hopefully international symposium of Epicurean philosophy to happen sometime in the future. So the first speaker will be me, Christos Yapijakis, professor of genetics and author from the Garden of Athens. My speech will have the title, The Scientific Humanism of Epicurus. So in an era of great disturbances, in an era that humanity faces the universal epidemics and pandemics of coronavirus and psychological stress that all humanity understands and feels right now, in an era that has environmental hazards, socio-economic crisis, and unfortunately wars, what is the best philosophical guidance for humanity? What is the best philosophical guidance for humanity in this era and in the post-COVID era that will come sooner or later? Recent research data of February 7, 2022, just 2 weeks ago, show that an international trust in science all over the world is more than any other theory, any other perspective of human endeavor, including religion, politics, and art. So there is a need, and this is the paper that presents this kind of data, that was published in Nature Human Behavior, a very respected international journal. But there is a need for a common, pragmatic, and humanistic philosophy, an ethical philosophy that concurs with science. And what is this philosophy? I would argue that the best philosophical guidance for this era is scientific humanism, epistemonikos anthropismos in Greek, a combination of science, of objective empirical knowledge with bioethics, meaning the ethics that is based on human nature for social utility and individual happiness, eudaimonia, and scientific humanism as expressed with clarity and consistency by the ancient Athenian philosopher Epicurus. Why Epicurus? Because Epicurus, who lived in the Hellenistic era from 341 to 270 before our common era, was a proto-Enlightenment philosopher. He was an empiricist, a naturalist, a humanist. He spoke about things that modern science has found out in recent 200 years or so. He spoke about atoms and void, the atomic weight, the atomic nature of senses, the emerging chemical properties based on atomic structure, the molecular basis of disease, the necessity and chance, free will, the evolution of species based on natural selection, the multitudes of worlds in the universe, justice as a social contract, the progress of civilization that goes along with ethical progress, not only economic and technological progress, and so on. Epicurus used criteria of truth to say what he said, and he was so to the point, as modern science has proved. He used the criteria of truth, the senses, the emotions, and the collective perceptions. These are criteria of truth that every human being can use in order to understand if something is true or not. And his philosophy aimed in happiness. meaning mental tranquility, ataraxia, and absence of physical pain, aponia. And all this by means of the empirical study of nature with naturalistic science and the resulting prudence, the practical wisdom, phronesis in Greek, and also virtue, areti, and friendship, philia. And the Epicurean philosophy for about 700 years was the first international multilingual humanistic movement that influenced thousands of people, not only Greeks, but also Romans, Syrians, Jews, Celts, etc., in 3 continents during 7 centuries in the Hellenistic and Roman eras. Then, for about 1,000 years, during the Dark Ages, during the Middle Ages, Epicurus' teachings were distorted and forgotten. But then, the discovery of Lucretius de Rerum Natura, the great poem of the Roman Epicurean poet Lucretius in 1417, during Renaissance, led to the revival of the Epicurean philosophy about 100, 200 years later by Galileo's friend Gassendi, an astronomer, a philosopher, and a Christian priest. And so everything has changed. The revival of the Epicurean philosophy by Gassendi led to empiricism, enlightenment, science, and inspired a lot of people during the Enlightenment years, and inspired people in the American Revolution, in the French Revolution, and in the Greek Revolution. Thomas Jefferson is a renowned figure in the American Revolution that he stated that he is also an Epicurean. And last year, in the last Panhellenic Symposium of Epicurean Philosophy, we showed that a prominent figure of the Greek Revolution that prepared the Greek Revolution, Rigas Velestinlis, was also influenced by Epicurean philosophical ideas. And the Epicurean revival by Gassendi led to modernity, as Catherine Wilson's book, Epicureanism at the Origins of Modernity, has described in detail, because it led to empiricism, enlightenment, science, and what we call modernity, modern world, and what we call today scientific humanism, humanism that has a scientific basis. And the scientific humanism of today that respects every human being has many, many features shared with Epicurean philosophy. First of all, naturalism, philanthropy, friendship for every human being, that every human has a value, the biological ethics, the ethics coming from the biology of humans, what we call bioethics now, the freedom of choice of every human being, including religion, politics, or whatever, the justice as a social contract, not existing in the world by itself, but it's what people decide and agree on what is justice as a social contract. And of course, aiming at quality of life and the right to pursue happiness. And Epicurus' happiness is equivalent to health according to the World Health Organization. Epicurus' description of happiness is mental tranquility and absence of physical pain. This is exactly what the World Health Organization describes as health. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So everybody who is stressed does not have a mental tranquility is not really healthy. And this is why the philosophical management of stress is very important during this time of crisis, during the pandemic of coronavirus. And that's why 3 professors of the University of Athens, of the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, with the support, the financial support of the prefecture of Attica, created this innovative, unique and successful program based mainly on science and Epicurean philosophy, a philosophical management of stress. Professor Evangelos Protopapadakis, a professor of philosophy at the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, Professor George Christos, who is an emeritus professor of pediatrics and endocrinology at the National University of Athens, and the leading researcher on stress, and myself, who I am a professor at the Medical School of the University of Athens. We created this philosophical management of stress pilot program based on science and Epicurean philosophy, and we did that for about 3 months as a pilot study in 3 consecutive months, and we collected data, statistical data that proved its worth. And this is all this research is described in a paper that is in press in an international magazine, The Philosophical Management of Stress Based on Science and Epicurean Pragmatism, a pilot study. But also the pursuit of happiness is a fundamental universal human goal, according to the United Nations. Epicurus was right, and Thomas Jefferson, the Epicurean president of the United States that wrote about the pursuit of happiness, were right. The pursuit of happiness is a fundamental human goal, as the United Nations has said, and we all can understand. So in conclusion, and this is my last slide, among all ancient philosophies, the Epicurean philosophy is the most compatible with science and naturalism. Epicurean philosophy is the most compatible with humanism. Epicurean philosophy is the most compatible with social contract and human rights, animal rights, and environmental issues. Epicurean philosophy is the most compatible with cognitive psychotherapy. Epicurean philosophy has proven its worth during Renaissance, Enlightenment, and early modern era. And it is both Greek and universal. The Epicurean philosophy promotes utility and happiness of all people. Therefore, in the post-COVID era, I think that it is the best guidance to humanity as scientific humanism based on Epicurus' philosophy. Thank you very much for your attention.